Welcome back, Karina.
Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to be here.
We didn't get to it all, and you're fun to talk to. You caught me off guard with a statistic just in the closing minutes of our first get-together. You said that you're able to get the work done with the help of thousands of volunteers. That's mind-blowing to me.
Yes.
So what happens? Do people knock on your door and go, you know what, I've always wanted to help out. I hear that you guys need help. Is that how we're... Do you recruit
in some
them?
instances, we do just have people walk in and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer. What are the opportunities here? And, we connect them to our volunteer coordinator. A lot of our volunteers are long time through faith groups. We are the Interfaith Community Shelter because we were founded by different faith groups. And we've always said we have from A to Z, or the Adventist to the Zen Buddhist, that will come in.
Nice.
Yeah. And they'll come in and they'll host a night where they come in, cook and serve dinner. We have our crew of volunteers who go during resource days and cook lunch. And then, yeah, it's an array of volunteers we've had the Santa Fe High football team.
You are kidding me.
Come out and volunteer, different youth groups. It's amazing. It really is. Because we have such a small crew, we wouldn't be able to do it without our volunteers.
How is that? What's the reaction like from your guests when a football team comes in or
I think it's really cool. I think they recognize that they're volunteering. Our hardcore, like every resource day or, year-round volunteers, they're amazing. They know our guests. Our guests know them, usually by name. And it's really cool to see. Like it is a community where you get to know these people. We also offer community service, obviously, but it's just really cool to see how many people are coming in, giving of their time, and skill sets, because we have our artist group that comes in, they're giving up their time. So it's really cool to see how many people are willing to volunteer.
Mind blown. That's great. You know what? I'm jumping around here, but you covered so much ground. I come from a military family. Both parents, actually.
Oh, wow.
Dad was Army Air Corps and then Air Force. Mom was in the Army. My oldest half brother served in Vietnam. My older brother, just 7 years older than me, caught the tail end of the Vietnam era, but he didn't serve in Vietnam, but he was in the Army. And so I've grown surrounded by military folks. You said that you've got, I think, somebody that handles just veterans affairs there at Pete's Place. Am I misquoting there?
No, that's correct. We the Goodwill does VA services case management. They'll come out once or twice a month to engage any homeless veterans, to try to connect to services. And then I know they have funding for housing as well for our veterans.
When a person finishes their service for the U.S. Armed Services and they get, say, an honorary discharge and you're on your way, what are they left with? Do they have health insurance? Do they have anything?
I do believe, like, when you're active military, there's insurance, and then there's a different one when you're no longer... you're inactive with the military or a veteran. I think the challenge that we see as veterans who have a lot of trauma, who have mental illness, whether or not that came from serving or, being in a war or something like that, or if that was already kind of underneath the surface, if there's childhood trauma, some behavior stuff around it that you start to see. But the military, it's so regimented, I guess, in how they function. You don't really start to see it until it rears its ugly head, like later on, where I think it just starts to pile up or layer, especially for those who serve during a war.
In a hot zone, yeah. Yeah,
and it's difficult to see. And I don't know, I really can't speak to whether or not they do any kind of assessment.
I see. So are we talking about folks in their 20s and 30s typically that are?
No, usually our veterans are older. So, and the other thing is, like, to my understanding, and I'm sure that's probably changed a little bit, like, but if you're dishonorably discharged, you don't get benefits.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a bummer, because if somebody, I don't know why exactly people get dishonorably discharged. I'm assuming a lot of it's around behavior and certain things. And in my mind, I'm wondering if that's just like, something that would have happened anyways, but now you have somebody who served actively went to war, or at least a place where he witnessed or experienced certain things.
Yeah.
And then it's just exacerbated. And a lot of, veterans, in my opinion, self-medicate.
Of course.
To kind of deal with that. And it's just been...
That's as old as time.
Exactly. Yeah. And, we called it different things depending on what era. Shell shock. Battle
fatigue.
Battle fatigue.
I think that's World War II maybe. When that
it goes back. I mean, it was happening during Civil War. I forgot what they called it as well. So they recognized that there was a change when people, came back from war. I think things are changing for the better, but there's still a lot of work to be done there for our veterans.
I sure see a lot of signs, when I'm at one of the intersections where people congregate to ask drivers for money. Almost more than half of them probably say homeless vet. I wish we could do better. But you're you know what? You guys are lighting a candle. No question about it. And I assume alcoholism and drug addiction is a big ingredient in this story.
It really is. And right now, across the nation, the fentanyl crisis. And now you're seeing the zombie drug part where they're mixing xylazine in the fentanyl.
You lost me. Zombie what?
They're calling it the zombie drug. It's a mix of, you have the fentanyl, the blue pills, but within that they're mixing, I believe it's like a horse tranquilizer called xylazine. Part of what it's doing is not even at the injection site, but people are developing like wounds or sores, and it can get really infected. And I think in other areas of the country, people are even losing limbs. I don't know that we've tested positive for it here in Santa Fe. I don't even know how they're testing, the samples.
To see what people are high on? Is that what you mean?
To see if it's in the fentanyl, because it's mixed into the fentanyl. And for us at the shelter, the big education piece has been xylazine is not an opiate. So it's not going to respond to Narcan or naloxone when you try to do an overdose reversal. For us, it's just educating the staff of like, if we've dosed them a couple times and we know that they're breathing, don't keep dosing them, because if it's xylazine, they're still going to be tranquilized from the xylazine. But as long as they're breathing, that's the big piece for us. And then, of course, keeping an eye out for anybody who does develop like infections or sores or open wounds on their arms or legs, that report it to us. And for us is then coordinating with healthcare for the homeless or hospital.
I'm going to hit the pause button and back up.
Okay.
Because I know 2/3 of what you just said, because I had some training here at the Friendship Club. But I want to set the table because not everybody's had any training at all. And I got to tell you, it wasn't long ago I'd never heard the word fentanyl. I didn't know what you guys were talking about, that work in the field and face the effects of it every day. In my youth, we had pretty much the holy trinity, booze, weed, and cocaine. That was kind of the menu. And now it's the wide, things are different. And I work in a community center that's centered around recovery. And so fentanyl has moved itself into our world, and we keep Narcan at our coffee counter. Narcan is a nasal spray, about like Afrin, that if someone's overdosing on an opiate, it can save their life, and it's very benign.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have any after effects. I will say, if you're looking for instructions on this, administer the dose and then stand back. It can be like waking up a rattlesnake. And there's a lot more to it, but that's the basis of it. So is fentanyl always a prescription thing that somebody's gotten a hold of one way or the other? Are they cooking it in bathtubs these days? What's the story?
No, it's being cooked and pressed.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's not. It's not like a. I think it's made to look like a blue pill to mimic oxycodone or OxyContin. And that's how it kind of started, where there for a while we had these pill mills and prescribing getting out of hand with the oxycodone.
Hang on, is pill mill an illicit thing, or is that like Pfizer? What's a pill mill?
So it used to be where we had, I'm sure we had them here in New Mexico, but I know it was also a national thing where we had clinics that were just basically prescribing left and right. There was no checks and balances. So they were just prescribing left and right. And so many people got addicted.
Right.
And when changes were made, like a prescription monitoring program and stuff like that, it really cut back on that, because you can't just prescribe left and right. You're really There's a checks and balances there where they're making sure physicians are prescribing more appropriately for opiates and painkillers. The problem with that is you left people addicted, and now they were scrambling, like especially with the withdrawal. It's not an easy one. Just the thought have people scrambling to get, back then the transition became heroin. So you went from getting Oxycontin or oxycodone. If you were cut off
from
there,
the doctor because
once
of
the doc
some
cut
grievous
you off,
injury or something,
you hit the street, found somebody, and that's how so many people got addicted. And now we call them the blues or the little blue pills, are what people are smoking. They don't ingest it. They smoke it off of a strip of foil.
I see that paraphernalia out in our parking lot.
Yeah.
I didn't honestly know what you just said. So, and that's because it hits harder if they smoke it than if they
they don't have to ingest it, then it has to go. The stomach breaks it down by the time it gets into the system. And it's really not, I don't think it's even meant to be ingested. It is really, I think, meant to be smoked. I'm sure some people also shoot up. What we see most commonly around the shelter and really around town, sadly.
Yeah.
When you see somebody with a blanket or a jacket over their head, there's a good chance they're smoking under there.
I know that for the first time in my memory, I see at gas stations and places like that, signs, nice, snazzy signs at the trash can, don't throw your needles in here. I mean, it's become...
And needles are, people are still using and intravenously, but, even our harm reduction programs have kind of had to switch things up a bit because so many people are just smoking the pills. They're not injecting. I mean, the flip side to that, the silver lining, I guess, is that there's not as many HIV or Hep C because of the shared needles isn't happening as frequently as it once did. So now it's just foils and the pills.
So harm reduction, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a thing I hadn't heard until fairly recently, because I'm in recovery and in my world, you're clean and sober, and that's not everybody's going to get sober in this world.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to continue to get high or get drunk. That's the way of the world. And so harm reduction is sort of a non-judgmental way of saying, all right, well, if you absolutely have to get high on opiates, here's some stuff you might want to know, and can we help? Is that, how would you put it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You pretty much nailed it. Because if you think about it, even wearing a seatbelt is harm reduction. The idea with harm reduction is you're reducing the likelihood of getting injured or causing harm to yourself, really, and others. But for harm reduction in recovery or in social services is really reducing, initially the focus of reducing communicable diseases between people who are shooting up. And most people know it as the needle exchange. Now it's kind of transformed a little bit. Again, we're not seeing as many people shooting up. So my understanding is some harm reduction has actually switched to handing out heavy duty foil. And I actually needed them to educate me because I was like, how is that harm reduction? And they're like, when it's a thin, cheaper piece of foil, they're like, it's coated. And it's when they smoke off of it, they're inhaling the coating, which really damages the lungs. Although smoking off of foil, I'm sure, is already damaging lungs. But somehow a heavy duty foil reducing how much harm it does to the lungs. It's weird. It's different.
Sidetrack. I met a judge in Santa Monica, and we were picking his brain and asking him questions. And he was a real nice guy. He was taking all comers. Somebody said, what percentage of cases that cross your desk in a criminal courtroom in Santa Monica, is a big suburb of LA, huge suburb of LA, what percentage of them are drug and alcohol related? And he had to think, well, directly or indirectly, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's, I actually didn't know that. I thought some sober people robbed banks or whatever. Doesn't seem to work that way. Every time you talk, I have more questions than I have answers. But I did want to ask about, we're coming off as we're recording here for the first time since spring of 20. You don't have to wear a mask in any place. I went in for a doctor's checkup recently, and almost no one was wearing masks inside the hospital. But 3 years ago, we were spraying doorknobs and getting groceries left on our garage for 2 or 3 days before we brought them in, and everything under the sun. Our kid did home Distance learning?
Yes.
Try that with a first grader. Put them in front of a computer.
I can't imagine.
It was lovely. So how did this strange period, the early 2020s, affect y'all's life there at the homeless shelter, the fentanyl situation? Are you able to parse out what was made worse by the?
So I think
COVID?
mental health was made worse by COVID because people isolated. The goal was stay physically healthy. The problem is then the mind suffered, right? And that was hard for us to kind of lower our senses for social distancing. We just lost that community vibe because you were being really mindful and cautious around the COVID restrictions, but then you lose that sense of community. And we're still trying to build that back, actually. So just, I think a month or two ago, we were still mandating masks. We still do weekly testing. We're
for
still,
COVID.
yes. And we still have people who test positive and we'll put them up for quarantine. But during that time, it was really difficult. We put a number of people in hotels, some at a new shelter that was formed essentially due to COVID, the old Santa Fe College or Santa Fe University of Art and Design campus. That is the Midtown Emergency Shelter.
Right.
And that was a COVID response shelter because you were able to put people in dorms and they had their own space. And the whole idea was that people were kind of keeping their distance from each other. And unfortunately, I think it was a detriment to a lot of people's mental health.
Make me goofy. and now that I want to step into an area I don't know anything about. There are countries in Europe that have a more relaxed drug law situation. And if you're an addict for heroin, you can just go get it. Part of their experience and the way they advocate for it is at least you're having to go look a doctor in the eye once in a while and have a conversation of some sort with them, as opposed to other countries where you're crawling around alleys and stealing car radios, if that's still a thing, to get high. The fact limited your ability to look your guests in the eye and say, "How you doing?" Just even that is a big impact, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if I mentioned that here or somewhere else where I had a volunteer. I didn't know he had a mustache for like almost a year because he had a mask on. We all wore masks.
Right.
And I saw him at a volunteer celebration. I was like, "You have a mustache?" And he's like, "I've always had one for years." And I was like, I had no idea.
I didn't imagine you with a mustache. That's fun. Yeah,
you kind of lost, you recognize people, but at the same time you didn't.
Once or twice I had somebody stand back and go, "Can I see you? Pull off your mask. I just want to see your face." Because we'd had 300 conversations. They'd never seen me from the... And I think my iPhone now recognizes you if you have a mask on. I think
Interesting.
These are high quality problems I've got. You know what? We've got a question from a listener.
Awesome.
Good morning. This is Mary, and I have a question. If people wanted to bring by food items, clothing items, self-care items to the Pete's Place, would that be something that would be accepted, or what's required to drop off items? Some people prefer to give physical items versus monetary donations.
Oh, a great question. So we do accept donations. We pretty much are open whenever people want to donate. It can be clothing items, shoes, bedding stuff, blankets. We don't really take appliances, but we will. I don't say, because I coordinate with the other shelters and other programs, that if we get something in, we'll try to get it. If it's not something that we use.
Do you mean a Foreman grill or a refrigerator? What are we talking?
Well, it can be from anything. We've had people like, here's a toaster, or, so we'll coordinate with the other programs who are putting people up in housing and be like, "Hey, does this person need a toaster?" Stuff like that. But typically, most commonly for us, it's, clothing items, some hygiene. When we do accept food, we'll get calls from people like, "Hey, we were just at this like party or some sort of event." The only thing there is we can't obviously accept food that's been half or opened or half eaten, stuff like that. But beyond that, I'm open to accepting anything because, like I said, I can coordinate with other programs if they need it, or if we can utilize it, even better.
And it also gets somebody walking in your front door that might otherwise have been, like me, just drives by it and go, "Oh, there's that place where they do that stuff."
And we give out thousands of clothing and hygiene and different items every month because people do not have where to launder, where to store. So it's a little like, wear it for a day or two, go sign up to shower, get some more clothes. And typically we see a lot of clothes in the trash because people don't have anywhere to store it or to launder. And that's, something we're hoping to address, but we recognize it. And that's why we go through thousands of items every month.
I have a question. It says in your website that you put folks' dogs up overnight while they catch sleep.
We
give me some details
accept
here.
everyone. And even the doggies, the kitties, we have a kennel. Most people don't know that. We recognize that for a lot of shelters, having a pet, becomes a barrier.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
What do you do with your dog? I can't stop at a grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to compare my problems, but I happen to be a dog nut. I've got a Velcro dog, but I don't take him into the grocery store. It would never occur to me. Yeah, if I found myself needing help from you guys and I had my dog, it's a super real thing. What do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, it's pets because, service animals legally accepted everywhere. But
what
the
are service animals that aren't dogs? We got an iguana? What are we talking?
No, I'm just talking about service animals in general. Like for those individuals, we actually let the animals stay in the dormitory with people. Whereas
right, because they're super well behaved and
they're trained. A real service animal performs a task.
That's right.
And you're right, it's just a dog. But typically, I've not seen another animal that performs a task. But I'm sure one day I will.
Okay. I want a pet falcon.
That alerts me to something. Or
go get me a cookie in the middle of the night. I'm busy.
That is what you call an emotional support animal because they know. And most people don't realize that emotional support animals aren't, here in the state of New Mexico, aren't service animals.
Correct.
So for us, that was why we wanted to create a kennel. We did. And it's really neat. It's really nice. We do have quite a bit of guests with pets. So it's been, for us, it's been really helpful to provide that.
Do you have dog food?
We get donated dog food, cat food. If we don't have enough pets that are staying with us and we have a lot of food, we'll then coordinate with like Food Depot or someone else. Or there's a street animal project. She's going to kill me. I don't remember her name, but amazing woman who's out there. She helps coordinate with appointments and shots for the pets and
Fantastic.
Food. So we all collaborate to make sure that the pets are okay. And typically they are. Most people, not most, but some people are under the impression that homeless people use it as a ploy to get like panhandling money and stuff. And the reality is, a lot of our guests are like, hey, if it wasn't for my dog, I probably would have already killed myself. But I don't know where to leave. I don't want to leave my baby alone, fur babies. So a lot, and we've been told that a couple times, and I've also heard it in different places, different ways, but it's basically the same thing, that's my best friend, and I'm holding on for that friend.
You bet. Oh, wow. Well, what am I not thinking to ask? What you got volunteers coming in going, hey, I got a few hours to kill. How can I help you? What do you say to a newbie that they don't already know?
Interesting. I think a lot of it's just really important to note, I guess, is I've had volunteers who are like, oh, I'm about to change lives. They're going to be so grateful. And, for our guests, it's an everyday just situation for them. So while you're doing a good deed, you're not getting a whole lot of praise for it. And just being mindful of that if you're going into it to volunteer, to have somebody, oh, thank you so much. Thank you for saving my life. Just get over it because it's not, their party is in there to get clothes, get a shower, get some food. And regardless of who's there, they're going to do that. So occasionally that happens. And then just reminding guests, too, that if there's any kind of stuff that comes up, to get a staff member and don't feel like you need to step in and handle it. Gotcha.
Well, I stand in awe. You rock, and you will be coming back for another episode because we just we love having you here, Karina.
Absolutely.
Thank you for what you're doing out there in the world.
No, yeah. And I do, again, shout out like the volunteers because I love that you brought that up. It's such a huge piece. And I don't think people realize how many volunteers we have at Pete's. And I've not come across a lot of nonprofits that have such an array of volunteers, an army of volunteers to step in, help out. And it's just been a blessing. So for us, and talking about, donations, whether it's clothing, we do accept cash. I got to throw that out there. But
that's the gift no one returns.
If it's, and I have to say it because we were talking about it the other day, like men do not clean out their closet as often as women do.
Ouch.
But we're really, right now we're really needing a lot of men's clothes. So we're like, hey guys, clean out your closets.
Are you saying that my 31-inch waist jeans are... Time to wake up from that dream. All right.
I got you the zero pants shirt.
I'm going to go look through my closet. You did it. We're
Okay, good.
out of here. Thanks a million.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.